Hello, how are you all? I hope you're good. This video, by the way, is pre-recorded. It might look as though it is live. It is not. I just wanted to be a little interactive with you with some of the features on my StreamYard, but we are pre-recorded. You can still be in the chat, but it might not be live chat. Hi. Okay, we have a scandal on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, and it comes from my very own party, the right wing. This just happened last night, or it started happening last night, and it has to do with a PR firm that is working with Big Soda that is lobbying against something that Make America Healthy Again and the Trump administration is trying to push through, legislation that they are trying to push through. And this will negatively affect Big Soda, what they're pushing through. And I'm going to tell you what that is in just a minute. And they hired a PR firm. This firm reached out to a bunch of right-wing influencers, offered them money to push the narrative that they wanted them to push. So this is about the SNAP program. And by the way, the SNAP program, just so you all know, SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That's what it stands for. So it's a program to help people that are in tough times, lower income people that might be in between things. It gives them sustenance and nutrition and food to help them move forward. That's what this is. And basically, what the Trump administration is trying to do with RFK Jr. and MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is they're wanting to restrict certain items that you are able to purchase with your SNAP card. So these items include soda, candy, cookies, and potato chips. And the reasoning for this is because these items have zero nutritional value. In fact, a lot of these foods, I mean, we could go in a lot of different directions with this, but a lot of these foods, they're addictive. They get people obese, sick. And that's one of the reasons why they don't want those to be available to purchase on SNAP cards. Now, this is not a ban on any of these items, and people that use the SNAP program can still buy these items. It's just not going to be paid for by the taxpayers. They can still buy these items. They just have to purchase it with their own money. So before we get into this scandal of this PR firm hiring people to push out a narrative, and before we go deeper into that, I want to take you back a few weeks ago. We're going to go in reverse because I actually follow a girl on X who has been lobbying for this on a local level. So she's been lobbying to get soda, candy, potato chips, and cookies removed from the SNAP program, citing health issues, especially for kids. You know, a lot of kids are on these programs and they grow up drinking sodas and things like that. By the way, I grew up in a single family home, so I can attest to this. My teeth were a hot mess for most of my life. Actually, I think I have a cavity right now that I need to go get filled. My teeth were a hot mess because I had a single mom. I was kind of left to my own devices a lot. It wasn't her fault. She had to work 7 days a week. And I drank a lot of soda and it wreaked havoc on my teeth. So I had a lot of dental problems growing up, which if you're trying to help people that are lower income, the dentist is expensive. Getting dental work is expensive. And if you have bad teeth, that affects everything. Your smile is one of the first things that people notice about you. So anyway, I digress. Let's get into what's going on. But first, I am going to take you
say that I can never be
to
surprised
Texas.
in this.
Here we go. So this is what was happening in Texas. Now, what you're going to hear in this video is this is the Texas state capitol, right? And you have these people introducing this legislation locally and fighting for this legislation, and they're shocked. You're going to see that in this video, they're surprised because somebody from the American Heart Association showed up to lobby against this bill. So just listen, and they're going to mention Big Soda by the end of this.
I often say that I can never be surprised in this building, but for the American Heart Association to be against this bill.
SB 379 seeks to remove soda, candy, potato and corn chips, and cookies from the list of items eligible for purchase with SNAP.
My name is Alec Puente, and I'm the Director of Government Relations for the American Heart Association. I'm here to testify today in opposition to Senate Bill 379.
I would encourage you to look at what it restricts.
The Heart Association is concerned about potential impacts of this bill on participation and population health. Imposing nutritional restrictions will interfere with the primary function of SNAP, reducing hunger, without reducing root causes of chronic disease.
I'm here because I want to support the children on this program and protect them from the chronic disease that sugar will lead them to develop. I actually advocated for this bill in Arizona and was shocked by the big soda companies sending their own person to come and advocate for the fact that there's no correlation between soda consumption and obesity, which is just a straight up lie.
Yep. All right. So that's what's happening. And you can see, we're discussing Big Soda, and you can see that Big Soda showed up to lobby against this bill. And their argument is, well, there's no correlation between soda and obesity. Okay, Jan. Sure. Anyway, let's look into this latest. That's going to lead us into what's going on with these influencers, because Big Soda apparently showed up again. They hired a PR firm and they specifically targeted MAGA influencers to emotionally manipulate their own followers into being against limiting soda, candy, cookies, and chips off of SNAP. Now, I need to tell you the incentive behind this. So why would Big Soda care? Well, I'm sure you've already figured it out. We found out that Big Soda makes $5 billion a year on soda purchased with SNAP alone. So you can see why they have an invested interest in keeping soda on. So it has nothing to do with health. Absolutely nothing to do with health, and everything to do with the bottom line. Now, let's go to this thread. So it was really odd because while this is going on, and by the way, this is something I think we can all agree with, right? I think all of us say, you know what, taxpayer dollars or the SNAP program, the supplemental nutrition program should not be used to buy items that are bad for you. This is supposed to be nutritional sustenance. Okay, so here we go. Nick Sorter. This was discovered last night, and people started sharing screenshots of all of these right-wing accounts that are sharing the same messages. So it was started to be discovered last night, and then Nick Sorter today put out a really big thread with proof of what's actually going on. And I will say, I've been noticing this on the right wing for a minute, and one of the ways that you can spot this, that people are being paid to push a certain narrative by a PR firm or a lobbyist group, is if all of a sudden you see all these accounts coming out with the same talking points. And you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So let's go through this thread. Nick says, exposed, influenceable. The company cutting big checks to influencers on behalf of Big Soda. Over the past 48 hours, several large, supposedly MAGA-aligned influencers posted almost identical talking points to feed them, convincing you Maha was out of line for not wanting soda purchases with food stamps. Snap. Some even slimely invoked President Trump as an emotional manipulation tactic, referring to his Diet Coke button. Not a single one of them disclosed they were paid for these posts, which led readers to believe a general soda ban was in the works. All right, so let's look at some of these accounts. Some of these you might not recognize, some of them you will. These are mostly accounts that are kind of just big on X, but they're really big accounts. Okay, so let's look at a few of these. All right, so you have Clown World. I know, but it's a big account. The government wants to block soda purchases for Americans on SNAP. Remember when New York City tried this and it completely backfired? President Trump proudly had a Diet Coke button on the Oval Office. This is ridiculous government overreach. Let the people decide for themselves. All right, now we have Eric Doherty. Important. We cannot allow Make America Healthy Again messaging to be used to force needy Americans into not buying certain things. Some officials in DC are working on trying to prevent Americans on SNAP from using those benefits to purchase any soda. Remember when New York City Democrats tried to prevent people from buying and consuming soda? It backfired big time. President Trump literally has a Diet Coke button in the Oval Office. Let people think and decide for themselves. Anyone can consume soda and be perfectly fine in moderation. Oh my goodness. All right. No, so now we have not Jerome Powell. Do you guys know who Jerome Powell is? Government overreach strikes again. This time, it's soda's turn. They want to restrict soda purchases through SNAP this time. This is an unwarranted attempt by the government to dictate what Americans can or cannot consume, which is an overregulation. Okay, so you get the point. They all have the same exact talking points. Doesn't this remind us of something? I don't know, the mainstream media? This is what's disappointing about it. They did not disclose that they were being paid by these firms. By the way, I'm going to show you more proof. They did not disclose they were being paid for by these firms. They're manipulating people into thinking this is a government overreach, into thinking that this is government trying to prevent people from purchasing what they want to purchase. They can still purchase whatever they want. This is just saying with the nutritional program, you're not purchasing these foods. That's all. Okay. So next order says, these influencers were given a couple templates to use by Influenceable, with one of those templates specifically telling them to mention Trump's Diet Coke habit. And remember, they specifically targeted and reached out to pro-MAGA people, knowing that their audience is MAGA. This was done to invoke an emotional response from loyal Trump supporters, making them feel as if banning soda from SNAP would be anti-Trump. This is an incredibly dirty tactic meant to manipulate loyal followers. So right here, he has the actual documents that were sent out to people. And that's what you have right there. You have all of the talking points. Government overreach. Make sure you talk about that. Make sure you talk about personal choice and freedom. Personal choice and freedom is not taken away from anyone, by the way. You still have that. You just can't use government bennies to get your potato chips and soda. Trump's preference for Diet Coke. By the way, I'm a Diet Coke drinker. I support this. I support this legislation. And Trump's voter base. Yeah. All right. And they even gave suggestions. Oh, look, in that picture we saw. There you go. Trump drinking a Diet Coke. All right, let's continue. Influencers were texted by Influenceable telling them to help push back against government overreach. And they were told they would be paid between several hundred and even $1,000 plus for each post, attempting to turn MAGA folks against RFK Jr. and Maha. That's who's leading the way in all of this. And there's an example of the text message. So it goes on. The way Influenceable operates is simple. They develop comfy relationships with lobbying firms, Ameribev and Cart Choice, are potentially some of the examples, who are funded handsomely by massive corporations such as Coca-Cola and Pepsi. They also develop relationships with influencers such as the ones listed above and pay them to push these lobbying group talking points. They're a middleman that makes a hell of a lot. Essentially selling out our country. Every influencer contacted by Influenceable met the same criteria, supposedly MAGA aligned. This was all meant to manipulate their followers, which trust them for news and opinions, into siding with Big Soda. A grand total of 0 of them disclosed that they were being paid to push a stance on proposed regulations. There was another template too, specifically pushing a CPAC link, calling this a war on soda. This link was included in the outline provided by Influenceable. Chad Prather. How much over-regulating governmental overreach can you handle? I think I've had enough. So this is Chad Prather. I used to like him. Another war on soda, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Influenceable does this a lot, pushing sketchy leftist-aligned ads in the past. They also pay people to routinely push candidates in movies too. This is a much more innocent example, but I'm sure you've seen some of these posts. So this was another one. This is Chad Prather. And you can see there's this text message that went out paying people $100 plus $1 for every 1,000 views to push out. And like he said, this is a more innocent one, to push out the movie Sound of Freedom. Okay, and we continue. Want to get paid to shill for people you know nothing about? Influenceable is the perfect fit for you. So this is out. He said, blah, 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 blah. It's still under attack by the Republican establishment. The Democrats, blah, 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 is a patriot and spent his career fighting for America First values. So they're even being paid, some people, to push out candidates, again, that they know nothing about. Luckily, some patriots, such as Riley Gaines, Riley Gaines is a good one, refused to sell out to Big Soda and turned down the offer and called the situation out. So you see, she says, they offered to pay me to post a big fat no. This is just the beginning. Prepare for part 2. So there's going to be more to this. Thank you, Current Revolt, Brick Suit, Callie Means, Sarah Censored, and others who contributed to this thread. We will not sell out Maha or MAGA. Wow. What does this guy say? Attacking fellow right-wingers simply because you disagree with how they manage their account. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. Here's the thing. This is everything we dislike about the mainstream media, because a lot of these news stations, these people, they have advertisers behind them. A lot of them, look at all the people that were shilling out the vaccine. A lot of them had backing or had something to do with Pfizer, or they're with a lobbyist firm. And this was everything we don't like. This is everything we fought for. Everything we do not like about the mainstream media is you follow somebody online because you want to hear their opinion. Even if you disagree with their opinion, you want to hear their opinion. And the thing goes, you are supposed to, if you are someone that has an audience and you're talking about a product, and you are supposed to disclose if you're making a commission on that product, if you're sponsored by that product. And the same here. I would want to know, are you being sponsored? Are you being paid by someone? Or is this your thought? That's my opinion. And the fact that they're calling this, and also what I don't like about this is it's not, and here's the thing too. Let's go back to that tweet. Here's the thing too. Attacking fellow right-wingers simply because you disagree. But the thing is, that's not their thoughts. These are not their own thoughts. This isn't a matter of disagreement. They're being paid to push a narrative. It's not their thought. If it was just a disagreement, that's a disagreement. That's not what this is. They're being paid to push things that are not their fault, their thoughts. And this is everything we don't like about the mainstream media, and that we fought to fight against. Is that how I want to say it? You know what I mean? So this, when I tweeted about this yesterday, so this is what I said yesterday. Big Soda also sent reps to Arizona when they tried to pass similar legislation there. This is not a ban on soda. This just means that your tax dollars will not be used to purchase soda via SNAP. Nick Sorter pointed out that Big Soda brings in $5 billion per year on soda purchased by SNAP. Really uncool if people are getting paid to shill for Big Soda. This is everything we said was wrong with mainstream media. I thought we were better than that. Okay, now I'm gonna leave you with one more thing. So this is Chef Andrew Gruel, and I just want you to hear his opinion on the matter. And by the way, some people were fighting back. Some people had the argument, this feels Orwellian. You're saying things like ban and regulation. This is government overreach. Okay, let me make something perfectly clear. No one needs to go on SNAP. No one. I mean, yeah, people, they feel it is your choice to sign up and apply for the SNAP program. You're already signing up for a government program. If you are choosing to sign up for that program, then they are allowed to regulate that program however they want. Nobody's forcing you on that program. This would be different if you were forced on that program and these are the only things that you can purchase and they're saying, no, you can't purchase this. You are already choosing to sign up for this program. They can regulate it however you want, and no one is stopping anyone from purchasing whatever they want with their own money. Okay. And remember, it is the supplemental nutrition program. Keyword nutrition. All right, let's hear Chef Andy Gruel, and then that'll be all, folks.
It's really disappointing to see so many conservative influencers get sucked into big sodas and big foods ruse, because all they're doing is perpetuating corporate welfare. And these are the same people that say that they hate welfare. It's handouts for the corporations that are making all of the American citizens sick. And you got to realize too, it goes beyond that. So when you're allowed to buy soda or any of these other junk foods through the SNAP program, SNAP is supplemental nutrition. It's nutrition. It's about giving people sustenance so that they can actually continue forward, not making them more sick. When you are giving them the money to be able to buy all of this junk, number one, they're getting addicted to it. Number two, they're getting incredibly sick. So that's just perpetuating our bankruptcy as a country, because over 20% of our entire federal budget goes towards healthcare, the majority of which are actually a result of chronic diseases that could be eliminated to some degree by cutting out all this junk that's in our food. But more importantly is that you got to even think bigger than that. All right. There are these things called food deserts where the only options you have to buy food are things like junk food and soda and all of this crap that are making people sick. It's in like Big Soda's best interest to keep those food deserts there and not allow people to have access to good food so that they can remove themselves from the addictions to soda. So what you're doing is that you're using taxpayer dollars. All right. What you're suggesting, if you're all for making sure that people who are on SNAP benefits can continue to buy soda, is that you're allowing them to take taxpayer dollars, which then they use and they spend on soda, and it goes back to Big Soda, right? And then they increase the amount of money that people get, and they lobby to be able to do that. And then all that money goes right back to Big Soda. And then they lobby for things like making sure that good, fresh grocery stores don't go into these inner cities or into these food deserts, because then they know that their products are the only things that people can eat. They get more addicted. And then what you start to see is this really weird merge between big food and big pharma, because, oh, guess what? You're sick. Well, we've got the pill. We've got the solution. So for somebody to take, and I know how much they're getting paid for these posts. It's honestly, it's probably like $200 a post. It's nothing. It's pittance. And you sell your soul in order to post for perpetuating sickness and corporate welfare. These corporations don't care about you. They don't care about independent liberties and freedoms. They don't care about the foundations of what conservative values are about. They're using them. They're using that argument, and they're using you as a pawn in order to perpetuate their poisoning of America. So it's very disappointing, and that's a little background on what's going on.
All right. That is, hold on. If you want to follow, he's a good follow. That is Chef Andrew Rule on X. So he owns a few restaurants in Southern California. All right, you all, that is everything that I have for you right now. Very disappointing for me. I think this is something that a lot of us pretty much agree on. I think Democrat and Republican. Again, this to me, this isn't government overreach. This isn't the same as the whatever that soda ban thing was in New York City. This is very, very different. It's not banning anything. It's just saying like, hey, we should probably have nutritious food on the supplemental nutrition program. And you see the clear incentive that Big Soda has, $5 billion per year of soda. And I want to say one more thing before I get off here. I used to work with kids in the foster care system, a lot of kids that their families were in the welfare system, and the things they eat are atrocious. And what's really sad is when you work with kids in the foster care system, it's sad. But if you've ever had a job like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You kind of grow up with them. Like, these were my first jobs out of college. So I was in my early 20s, and, you know, you would meet the kid when the kid is like 12 years old, and you have them for how we were a residential facility, basically like a shelter for at-risk kids. And you would successfully discharge them, and they'll be back in a few months. So you see them on and off until they age out at 18, which is really unfortunate. And you watch these kids grow up, and almost all of them become overweight. You'll see them when they're like 12, 13. That's when you would meet them. And they're, you know, like most 12 and 13-year-olds, like little scrawny sticks, you know. And then you see them as they age, and it's a lot of things. It's the medication they're on. It's the food they eat. And you see them become overweight and start to get these ailments. And I remember like being in my 20s and I'm working with, you know, kids that are 10 years younger than me. And I felt like they were older than me. Like I felt like they were older than me because they had more health problems than I did. So I support restricting those items on the SNAP program. They can still buy those items. They just use their own money to buy those items. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Have a lovely night. I'll see you later. Bye.